On November 4th, 2013, an angel woke me up at 3:33 a.m. and said, "You have 2 minutes." He then picked me up above his head and carried me off. We traveled a short distance until we arrived at a cloud. This cloud was very unusual because, even though it was white, it had an iridescent quality and was hovering just above the ground. The cloud was emerging from the side of a building. The angel pulled me into the cloud, and as I passed through it, I looked up and saw an arched church window. The angel then deposited me inside of the building, void, and I just floated there in the dark. It was silent, and I immediately felt like I was in a profoundly holy place. I also immediately felt the presence of Jesus, but could not see him. I sensed that he was waiting for me to respond. So I called out to him saying, "Jesus, are you there? Are you there, Jesus? Jesus, are you there?" As soon as my last word ended, he began speaking to me. I was startled for a moment because I recognized his voice. I then bowed my head as I listened intently and reverently with my soul to his every word. He spoke to me in a foreign language that I did not understand. His voice was filled with glory. It wrapped around me and passed through me. The creator of the universe, with all his power, love, and mercy, was embracing me. How can I express in words what his voice felt like and how it sounded? It would almost be a sacrilege to try, yet I want you to know how extraordinarily beautiful and infinite it was. I have been trying to find the most eloquent and sacred words to describe this experience for over 3 years now, and it is simply impossible. Nothing else existed or mattered in that moment. I wanted to stay there with him forever. Then, as Jesus finished speaking, a golden light began to grow to the right of me. Meanwhile, I was being turned by someone behind me. I was being picked up like a child and cradled in a loving embrace. The light grew larger and larger until I was able to see 2 people in white robes. One was holding the other, and initially, I was not aware that this image was of me and another person. I thought it must be Jesus, so I looked up to see the person's face that was holding me, but the angel pulled me away before I could. Then, directly in front of me, a loving yet authoritative voice told me, "Go back to church." I said, "What church?" He then said, "Any church." This experience provides me with a continual source of contemplation as layers of understanding unfold over time. That does it for the first experience. Moving on to the second experience. I felt I had no possibility of success in this world and became addicted to Dexedrine pills in the summer of 1971. I had to leave art school in 1970 with a nervous breakdown. Back at home, I was pushed to get a job and worked as a gopher, a filing clerk, at an accounting office. I quit and resorted to the pills as summer began. By fall, I had lost over 20 pounds of healthy weight, and my hair was starting to fall out a bit. I was totally addicted to the diet pills. I was preoccupied with sins of the flesh and was at York University visiting a girl. I had spent the previous night in the city with another girl. I was pretty crazy. I went back to the women's residence of the young lady I was visiting, and while walking within the huge residence building, I saw Jesus in an aureole of light from his chest up. I had lifted my head slightly to see him. I just stared, and I began to feel his awareness of me. I could feel Spirit's peace behind me also. His presence quite intimated God for me. When you feel God, it is familiar. God is not strange. It is the opposite. After some seconds, I no longer could see Jesus. A voice in my mind suggested I should look people in the eyes. Soon I was in Venice's room, and I was crying and was quite gripped with fear of dying, which seemed imminent. I cried, "I am no good," I kept saying. She was consoling me, but couldn't stop me from crying in my terror. I don't know why this fear arose, but it surely did. Venice was moved to leave me to myself, and just as she left, I stopped crying. I looked around me. Something had changed, and I felt the place was filled with peace. Peace is not the absence of violence. It is the presence of God's Spirit. In hindsight, my tears had softened my heart and sensitized me to peace. I got up. That peace was not only peace. It was as if heaven had woken up and become normal. Heaven was where I was. I am not trying to sound dramatic. I try to do the opposite. Understatement, perhaps. But I had lived over 20 years, and what I was feeling was just not normal. And I refer to heaven simply because that's what it was. Everywhere. I began to walk, to nowhere in particular, there in the women's residence. Males were permitted. I met a young lady whom I spoke with. Maybe I said, "Hi." There must have been some significant eye contact. I was wide open, emotionally then. She declared that I was sick, as in wacko. She meant no derogatory thing. She was being candid. I asked her, "Can you feel that?" Meaning the peace. She said, "Yes." That's all I can remember as the real big peace came on. I could see it. I must have been seeing from within my very midst, where the truth is, where the self is. I perceived a scene of a void, radiant blackish-green nothingness. It was self. It is self now too. It is always. Always. What I was seeing and sensing with my entire being was that which all the spiritual teachings mention, the satisfaction and fulfillment of being. It is. And I am sure enough that Jesus is responsible for my encounter with it. Less than an hour earlier, I had been seeing and feeling him seeing and knowing me. I had felt my wonderfulness, maybe even my sweetness, my best part, because he was seeing this as David. When and where there is love, such things are communicated. He is never removed from love. It is his way. Anyway, the center of life was posited right in front of my conscious vision, and I knew it to be myself and all that is. Essence. It was timeless, well above and beyond time, experiencing this. At some point, I recall walking away, and I had a brief anticipation that my nirvana, my heaven, would diminish, that my ego would resume. But shades of it remained for weeks or months after. My dad and my brother had appeared that night and drove me home. They had come from Ottawa to get me. I'm sure the lady I was visiting phoned them and complained of my mad self. I wept sometimes in the back seat of the car. I had just seen God. No way in hell I could have told them this. Nobody needs to envy my experience. I cannot turn it on and off like a disciplined yogi. The living beatitude I saw and felt is ever so, but I cannot recall it fully. If I could, I would be re-experiencing it. It is and was the self. There is only one self, amid which we all am and be. We deem ourselves to be physical. We are quite convinced. But that is temporary stuff. Atoms and molecules. Spirit is not divisible. We are one. We are, each and all, one. Bless you for listening. Thank you for this opportunity to share. I did not become a saint, sadly. I talked to my departed wife. I know she is, and I know I will continue to be. Forever. Love never dies. Life never ends. Amen. That does it for today's experiences. As always, let me know what you thought in the comments below. Until next time, stay safe and continue to be blessed.